Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. And as you indicated, there are several issues that we need to zero in on today. First is oversight of the tax code. Last week, the chairman of the House Committee, the Ways and Means Committee, exercised his authority under Section 6103 of the tax code to request 6 years of the president's tax returns. I support his request completely. Chairman Neal raised a key point about oversight of the tax system that explains why this step is necessary. The IRS has a policy of auditing the tax returns of sitting presidents and vice presidents each year. It's not clear that system is effective. Congress has an obligation to look into whether it's functioning properly and, if necessary, craft legislative solutions. Let's also clear up a misconception on the issue. This is not an obscure law that has sat around gathering cobwebs. Both committees that handle tax law, finance, and Ways and Means use the authority regularly. The committee's majority used it earlier this year to investigate certain tax-exempt hospitals. This committee also used it between 2013 and 2015 during an investigation into the treatment of tax-exempt organizations. Because this type of request is so routine, the Treasury Secretary long ago delegated responsibility for complying with it to the IRS commissioner. IRS commissioners have, in turn, have delegated it to agency employees. These requests do not cross the Treasury Secretary's desk. Furthermore, Congress is closely familiar with reviewing the tax returns of presidents and vice presidents. The Joint Committee on Taxation reviewed President Nixon's tax returns. Congress reviewed the tax returns of past vice presidential nominees. This committee also reviews the tax returns of all nominees we process. With respect to Chairman Neal's request, the law says the tax returns shall be provided. The law does not give anyone, not the Treasury Secretary, not a White House official, the power to interfere. The administration has responded to Chairman Neal's request by launching a campaign of blatant political intimidation. I recall in the very recent past when the prospect of political interference in the IRS mattered greatly to both sides. So here is the bottom line. Chairman Neal's request is based on legal authority our two committees exercise regularly, and the process of obtaining and reviewing tax returns is routine. I believe this committee ought to make the same request for the president's tax returns. The committee must not punt on oversight and cede that role to the House. Two other issues I'm going to touch on briefly, Mr. Chairman. One with respect to tax policy. Americans who work for a living have long understood that the tax code is rigged to favor the most unfortunate. It's now becoming clear that tax enforcement is rigged in the same way. According to newly released data, the audit rate of corporations and those at the top is in free fall. Audit of those with more than $1 million in income, cut in half over a decade. Audits of the lowest corporations, again, cut in half over a decade. A new report from ProPublica showed one clear example of how that came to pass. A decade ago, there was an effort to bring together skilled investigators to crack down on tax cheating by the mega-wealthy. The mega-wealthy fought back with an army of lobbyists and lawyers. The effort to get the tax cheats to pay a fair share fizzled. So the most fortunate are off the hook. What about people who work for a living? Another ProPublica report showed that in Humphreys County, Mississippi, there's a higher audit rate than any other county in America. It's not because it's packed to the county line with money launderers or shell corporations. It's because Humphreys County is poor. It's poor, and most of those folks claim the earned income tax credit. Now, I don't take a backseat to anybody when it comes to working against improper payments or abuse. But how can the Congress stand by a tax enforcement system that punishes working people and gives the wealthy and the most powerful a green light to cheat? If a working family makes a simple mistake on their taxes and gets hit with an audit, it could snowball into a huge financial setback. If a Wall Streeter concludes they can get away with tax cheating, it's like they just went out and discovered a new gold mine. One proposal that can help with this unfairness is the bill Senator Carton and I are introducing tomorrow to require minimum standards for paid tax preparers. The idea is if working people are less likely to run into a crooked or incompetent tax preparer, they're less likely to face an audit. Passing our bill would be a good first step, But this issue is going to take a lot more work, and the commissioner knows a lot about Senator Cardin and my interest in it. Finally, I want to wrap up with a quick point about how Americans file their taxes. I start with the proposition that filing ought to be simple, and taxpayers shouldn't have to use a private company to file their taxes online. I support allowing Americans to file directly online with the IRS. I have also proposed bipartisan legislation several times to create an optional, simple return system. Your forms show up completed, and all you have to do is check the numbers. No more headaches from a complicated filing process. And suffice it to say, the tax preparation industry, their software tax preparation folks spent millions of dollars to hold off those important reforms. Now, during the debate on the tax administration bill, Chairman mentioned it, my staff did push back on a longstanding policy that blocks the IRS from competing with private tax preparation companies. I'm going to keep fighting, colleagues, for a simple return system and the right to file directly with the IRS online. In the meantime, the final package, and the chairman mentioned it, limits the role of private debt collection on working Americans, and it permanently extends a highly successful program that helps low-income taxpayers file their returns for free. And Mr. Chairman, I didn't even have a chance to go into this with you. Just a few minutes ago, I got confirmation from the IRS Chief Counsel that the IRS can terminate free file and design their own direct file product with 12 months notice. We just received that, so I wanted to just tell my colleagues because we just got it and wanted you all to know about it. Mr. Chairman, obviously there's a lot to talk about this morning. I look forward to working with you.
Yeah.